Awesome. Thank you so much for the breadth of knowledge you guys have and all the experiences you've been through. It's nice to see that you've seen both sides of the fence, and you also understand that neither side has grass.
Right.
So I'd love to talk more now about the actual investment theses that you guys put into practice every day. Let's talk more about the stages, the check size, and the industries that family offices that you're working with or in specifically invest through.
Yeah, I can start. It really depends on the family office that you're speaking to, especially as it relates to check size. I prefer working with family offices. No offense to the VCs in the audience, but they're just a little bit sometimes less complicated, especially if you have a family. In my case, who started a company in healthcare and understands the industry, and the company that's seeking funding can speak to that entrepreneur, that founder, and so they can see that. So, we have thesis across different industries, obviously healthcare, but we also just recently went into the pet space. So we have a company called Cuddles, very adorable name, but it's a pet servicing company for groomers, boarders, and daycare centers. He first started, we went into actually vet, started a company called Fetch My Vet, which didn't do so well, but we learned a lot about the pet industry. And so when we started Cuddles, that was a space that he kind of wanted to expand into. So even if the family office isn't directly tied to, whatever your company is about, find a way to integrate it and weave it in, because you really want to capture their attention first. Don't be going into a family office that's focused on, entertainment. You've got some biotech, company or something like that. So make sure you do your homework. The other thing I'd say is, we obviously have an investment arm that deals with all of our public market securities, but the public markets have been super frustrating recently. I don't know if you all feel the same, but we therefore, we have our quarterly reviews and all that types of thing to ensure that portfolio is doing well. But we're really focused on private investments, right? We want to see kind of that space grow. So, make sure you understand the family makes private investments. Sometimes they don't. But yeah, going back to even some of the statements that others said before, make this a very personal thing, right? I don't like cold emails either. If you can get an introduction, that's probably the best way. But yeah, that's kind of what I would say on that. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts.
Yeah, so just to give a little brief background, after our founder Tim had a nice exit in 2017, his goal at that time before I met him was to not lose his money. So he wanted to make more safer, more traditional markets. He started to get an appetite. He's an entrepreneur himself. I joined the team, had some experience in the space. So in 2023, we started to make our first investments. We've done 12 since that time. To answer your question, average check size is a little skewed because one of them was at a higher level. If you truly take the average, it'd be about 900,000. The true average, putting out the outliers, more like 400. We've done 12 investments since that time. And I would say our family, there's a phrase out there, if you've seen one family office, you've actually seen one family office. They're all incredibly different. Ours does a lot of philanthropy in his hometown of Iowa. We do a lot of real estate as well. So the investing side's maybe less than 10% of what we do. So generally we're at a Series A and higher. Generally we like for companies to already be at a 50% threshold of capital raised. So that's been very good for us so far. Companies like Figure, Aptronics, so definitely humanoids, robotics, some AI, and even a private aviation platform called Flyhouse is doing pretty well for us. So we're kind of very founder-centric, and we're pretty agnostic when it comes to the technology. So,
yeah, from the wealth management lens, I would just say one of the most beautiful things that's happened since I joined the industry is the democratization of alternatives, and the idea that 15 years ago, a family that we worked with at JP Morgan basically had access to managed mutual funds, some very, very large mega cap alternatives, and that was about it. And so our client base, and we're helping them both on the public market side, on the options space, using more niche funds is what Lido focuses on. We don't see a lot of alpha in the mega cap funds, and there's nothing wrong with BlackRock and KKR, but it's just hard to make a compelling return on $50 billion of a fund. So our client base is really leaning in actually at the individual level, and they are getting approached by founders. They are getting direct access. And so I think that warm introduction and going into, who graduated from what school, what company were they a part of, and a lot of the folks, like Alex was saying, the frustration part about the market is not that it's doing poorly, it's doing amazing. And so if you're not keeping up with AI and technology through public markets, you're actually getting left behind. The dividend sector and international markets are doing better than the US. So it's a very interesting time, but more and more of our clients, both from a baby boomer perspective and a millennial perspective in Gen X, are excited about alternatives. There's just not as many things that resonate with them. They want to invest in companies that they believe in, they have a passion around. And so we help with that process. It may not even be something that we make money on from an advisory perspective, but we're building that as part of our asset allocation model. We're finding ways to connect. That's why one of the reasons I'm here is to learn about all of you guys and to get connected and to connect with the VC funds and really keep that democratization going, because the more access, the more capital, the more introductions, the more that ecosystem is going to grow, and it's going to boost our US economy. So that's the wealth management lens on it. But in terms of check size, our clients, I have a client who's worth $30 million. They're liquid. She wrote a $5,000 check yesterday to a golf booking tea time company. She's more excited about that than the growth she has in NVIDIA. So you just put that in perspective, right? The idea of like what makes people happy, what gets them excited, what gets them motivated may not be what you traditionally think. So don't count anything out in terms of who you're reaching out to, but just do your homework and make sure that it resonates and it fits and you're really prepared.
Great, thanks for that insight. And you hear so many different terms about investment groups, VCs, PE, family offices. What really differentiates a family office from those other investment firms, and either what sets you guys apart or even makes you similar? And then basically, what matters to family office operators?
Why don't I start, and because you guys are with single-family offices, on the wealth management lens, between technology and the ability to outsource and insource and create hybrid family office environments, our firm does a combination of working both through a subsidiary tax company that we own. So we do tax planning, we own a trust company, we have estate planners on staff, but we're willing to collaborate and look outside. So we're building a family office around a client. And it doesn't, and my point is, it doesn't have to be at $1 billion level, right? So that family office, I think the term is changing. I was with a guy yesterday, he considers himself a family office. He has $20 million, and that's, to him, that's his family office. So I think that term is changing and evolving, but a traditional family office, I'll let these guys answer, but I think just that it's an ever-evolving situation between technology and service providers and AI and access and software. It's being completely disrupted.
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit earlier about flexibility, but I do think that sometimes, and the reason I say that is because we've invested in companies across stages, right? And I think that, doing your homework is obviously really important, but I personally have seen companies and started companies with family backing. And a lot of times, if you have a family that's really into what you're doing, I've seen them do up to 2, maybe 3 times, rounds back into the company. So that's would be probably really rare in the world of VC. But again, I just really like the flexibility of families. And when you have a family behind you with the right amount of capital, not a family office of 20 million. You'd probably want somebody north of 500, which to me is technically, I would say, the definition of family office. But there are a lot of fakers out there, or personally they might consider themselves. But you want to make sure that they have the ability to write checks, and some will and some don't. I mean, just to your example, his biggest concern was just losing money. And so a lot of times private investing is a great way to lose money if you're not doing the right amount of due diligence. So I think the due diligence aspect is also much different. I'm doing a lot of due diligence for the families, so I'd like to think I'm really smart, but we have a team, and there might be a more systematic approach that a lot of the larger VCs do that might be different from ours. And I can talk all day about due diligence, but I won't bore you guys. If you want to talk about due diligence, come find me. But yeah, I think that process is also very different. So that's my thoughts on that. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I would say real quick, two key things I look at difference. One, you usually see family offices have more patient capital. Our family that I work for doesn't have children, so that's a little bit of a different outlier there, but many have second gen, third gen, fourth gen, so the patient, they're not necessarily looking for it in 3 to 5 years, so the patient capital. The second thing, I remember leading an accelerator back in the day, went to a VC dinner. One of the companies said, we've already returned a 5X and we're expecting an 8X for the next few years. I listened to the VC GPs and LPs in the room. We cannot accept less than a 10X return. They denied the company. I think that's bullshit, by the way. Excuse my French. If I put $1 million into you and you're going to bring $7 million in 5 to 7 years, we will take that. So I think that's a big difference. And by the way, love VC. Just saying there's a different outlook, at least in our family office, that it doesn't always have to be a 10X or bust. And the whole 1 out of 10 has to, succeed and nine others fail. Think about
we
it.
do
You
love
invest in
VC.
10 companies, look at 9 of them and say 9 of you are going to fail. Don't believe in that model. So.
I'm curious on that note, like, what is something you saw VC maybe passed on that you didn't and was a really good win?
I mean, you think about the model, generally they're looking at 100 companies, they're passing on 99 of them. So some of ours that were, like there's a company called Seeker, they were more doing friends and family. They weren't ready for the VC stage. We saw an opportunity and that was our first form of valuation increase. They're doing major government contracts. So yeah, having a little bit of a different outlook I think helps. So Seeker would be one of them.
Awesome. Let's move on to a little bit about how to really operate and get in touch with you guys and operate around, how to interact with the family office. What's the way that you see most founders or coming to you and gauging your interest and getting you guys to invest?
Well, it's interesting. I used to be very deeply connected in the Tampa Bay and Florida ecosystem. Since I joined the family office, I've been very heads down because the minute you say you're part of a family office, you start, getting reach outs. And I appreciate the one panelist earlier. For me, email me, text me, LinkedIn me, I don't care. Just be different, stand out, do something to grab my attention. One of our mentors at the Tampa Bay Wave, he built a company, had a $250 million exit. He retained 80% of it, did pretty well. He attended one of our pitch events, and I asked him afterwards for feedback. He's like, yep, I'll give you feedback. He said, get a pitch in 2.5 minutes. Because everybody wants to tell you their whole story about their baby. 2.5 minutes, grab their attention to get a cup of coffee. So I'm big on reach out to me directly, rich.haruska@kinnitz.com. Happy to talk to anybody during this event. So we want to be directly accessible. Now, again, we are looking for companies that have already secured a good amount of their capital because we're not doing DD all day. But I believe in also helping people if I can't directly invest them myself. So.
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about keeping it very warm. Look, if you're trying to get money from someone and you can't find somebody to make an introduction to you or get in front of them, then you're not hustling hard enough, in my opinion. That's just me. I mean, I'll respond to cold emails if you do something to kind of get my attention. But also, like what I've seen some people do is throw something my way that's helpful. Right, so maybe it's a former investment that they saw us make, or maybe it's something interesting or an article that could help me with my job, with my family. And I think that when you build a bond at the beginning like that, and I'm a big believer in you have to give to get. And when you give information or you kind of show interest in what our family's doing, whether that be on the foundation side or whatever, it shows that you've done your homework. It shows that you've read. It shows that you've kind of put in some effort to, have a meeting or whatever it is. So be persistent too. I don't mind after we've met if you're emailing me all the time. I don't think it's rude. I like that hustle. So I strongly encourage you guys to be persistent. Don't be weird and creepy, but be persistent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the first test for a lot of VCs and family offices is, can you get into contact with us without using a form on a website? If you can do that and you can network and you can show that you have the aptitude to build your network to get in touch with someone that you want to meet, that's the first sales test, really. Can you do this day in, day out. So that's awesome to hear. I'd love to know as well, maybe from each of you, maybe a fun story about something that happened through your family office journey that you would have never gotten to do or seen if you were in a different industry or career.
Oh, so when I was working with the Sci-Fi Channel founders, they also had a company. They actually owned Hollywood.com, which has been around for over 30 years. They actually bought the asset from the LA Times when they were unloading some of their digital assets. And they wanted to come back into the ticketing space as a last mover advantage. So I helped, we actually built a mobile app and for ticketing and Broadway shows. And I was the product manager for the mobile app, and then we also did a whole rebrand of the site. And that experience was incredible because I definitely wouldn't have gotten that at JP Morgan or any other wealth management, kind of experience. But I really did just kind of jump in, and it was something that the family needed. And you know this, whenever a family needs something, you figure it out. So that also taught me to be able to kind of talk the talk, right? I can understand tech lingo to a certain extent. I know enough to be dangerous. I don't code. That's something that I really do appreciate about family office in general, is the diversity of experience that you get, right? So like even after we launched the app, which when we published it to the apps, to the App Store, to the Google Play Store and Apple Store, that was like a milestone in my life. I was like, wow. But then that came with like digital marketing, right? And SEO and how do we, all that, right? So, and as a former banker who just mainly did numbers, and I really like talking about markets and all that, but then I had a context switch and talk about like, does this button look good on the screen? Like, should we do an A/B test on like whatever? So I really like the flexibility that comes with family offices. So that's why I'm saying, I've said it now a couple times, flexibility, but you do have to be flexible with family offices, and they'll be flexible with you, typically.
So I'm going to take the question a little differently and just have some fun. So one of the funniest interactions that I had at my time at JP Morgan, which I think speaks to the fact of why I love what I do so much, is you just never know where the day is going to take you. When we were at JP Morgan, we had this alternative investment summit. We would host it in Miami. It used to be at the Key Biscayne Ritz. It was like $400 billion in the room. We'd bring in every VC fund and private equity fund, and Michael Bloomberg was the keynote that year. And I was sitting in the Boca office for JP Morgan, which was this small satellite office above a Chase branch. It was crummy. It wasn't like the tower they just built at Park Avenue. It was horrible. Alex was in Miami, and it was lovely. However, I got selected to go be a human arrow. I don't know if can anybody raise your hand if you know what a human arrow is?
Nope.
Great.
Demonstration?
So a human arrow is the guy who points the guests or the attendees in the right direction. So if you're opening the door and showing them which ballroom to enter, right? We could have had some human arrows today. So I was assigned to Steven Schwarzman to be his gopher. Does everybody know who Steven Schwarzman is? CEO, founder of Blackstone. He's worth about $50 billion. He was probably like $9 billion then. So I'm terrified. I'm a second year analyst. I'm early 20s. We go down to this conference, and Mary Erdos, anybody know who Mary Erdos is? So Mary Erdos runs asset management and wealth management for JP Morgan. She's in line to be one of the successors of Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan. She's terrifying. She's one of the most intense. She's amazing.
She's also not that bad.
She is very intimidating and very smart and very cool and a great leader. So she says, hey, you're going to be Steven Schwarzman's gopher. I'm like, what's a gopher? She said, anything that he asks you to do, you're going to do. And I'm like, I'm not part of the hotel staff. What is this? So long story short, I have a headset. I got a walkie-talkie where it's like Air Force One. All these jets are landing. The limos are coming. And I know what Steven Schwarzman's look like, but he doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know that I'm going to be this guy. His plane was late. I stood on cold tile in dress shoes for 2 hours. We don't wear dress shoes the same way anymore, but it hurts. Long story short, the guy comes in. I've got his key card, his PIN, his security thing. It's the most awkward interactions. You talk about like getting in front of people. I'm the place I want to be. I'm like, I could leave JP Morgan. I'm going to get a job and work for Steven Schwarzman at Blackstone. It's going to be this amazing private equity jump because I didn't go investment banking from UF, and I'm going to pivot to private equity. It's going to be amazing. And the guy comes out of the limo and opens up his lapel, and he said, hey, can you put that security pin on me? And I'm like fumbling with the pin. Long story short, I followed him around for 24 hours, kept like 50 feet away from him. And at the end of the conference, he was so appreciative that I gave him space, but I was trying to do my job and balance all of that we ended up sitting down and having a conversation. It didn't lead to a job, but it was one of the most exciting moments of my career, sitting down with one of the most influential people. So I just say, you never know where life is going to take you. You don't know what path you're going to go down. Pursue the hell out of everything that you guys are doing. Have fun with it. Have some humility. And just know that like with all the pressure you're under and all the things that you're going to go through, it's going to work out, right? Something is going to give. You're going to get that break. You're going to have fun. You're going to step into your moment. I'm doing that now with the company that I'm with. And just have fun. And we're all like trying to get there, but just have fun and embrace and laugh and just enjoy the little things is all I would say.
That's great. I feel like karma can be a son of a you-know-what sometimes. So when I used to lead different companies, when I hired probably over 1,000 in my time, my favorite job responsibility is always the one at the end that says any and everything else that needs to be done to get the job done. Well, 6 months into leading the family office, Tim calls me up. I think it was like right after Christmas. Hey, Rich, we have an opportunity to further grow our nonprofit, so I need you to be the CEO of the Spirit of Okoboji. Can you do that? I'm like, yeah, of course. Well, little did I know we have 6 different endeavors, all these initiatives. Well, all of a sudden, we wanted to build a sports and entertainment center, and we bought a golf course and adjacent land to then build property around. I'm like, oh, I didn't know I'd be in the golf course business. And then probably my favorite one, it was about a year ago. I'm based in Tampa, by the way. So imagine me doing real estate and philanthropy in Okoboji, Iowa. We have a gentleman, Drew Hagee. He's a phenomenal leader. He's boots on the ground there. He calls me one day, Rich, we want to help a coffee shop called Topog open their second location. And we have the property outside of where Tim's founding company, Grapetree, to do it. I'm like, that's awesome. How long is it going to take to build? He's like, no, Rich, you don't understand. I'm like, what am I missing? We're moving the building across town. So we literally moved an old historic cottage across town, and they're opening up in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we're helping an entrepreneur expanding their second location. Did not have moving a coffee shop across town my bingo card. So yeah, never a dull day in the family office space for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for those stories. They hit home. Do we have time for one more, or? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for coming up and giving your experience and your knowledge. Really appreciate it, and it was just a great conversation. Thanks.
Thank you guys.